There can be only one podcast, and may it be the Prince of the Universe. Hi, folks, I'm Matt.
I feel like it's hotter than one of Buff Bagwell's Gigolo videos.
Hello. Do you think, are you warm? I'm sorry. I'll crank up the AC for you. Hot daddy.
So,
you know, we're going to be talking about if we're doing 2 episodes again, which I feel like we're going to get 2 in because I got a lot to talk about here.
Okay, good.
These are 2, in my opinion, these are 2 of the best so far, in a way. But Terry Gordy, Final Flight of the Freebird, is maybe the best one I've seen so far.
It's pretty good, and I hate that our
yes, I hate that our third wheel,
because he has great stories of his youth where he believed in the Freebirds to the point where he shed tears.
The Freebirds were, and that's a dark side, and that is a sad side. I mean, he got both sides of the ring.
He did. He got
all sides of the ring.
Yes.
Terry Gordy. Now, I knew about the Freebirds. I didn't watch them. I knew about them because you knew about the Midnight Express, all those the tag teams back in the day. I had zero idea that he had started at 14. And at 14, he looks like a 19-year-old.
Well, I think he
maybe young 20s.
You know, Terry Gordy, even as a grown-up, had a very unique look.
Yes, he did.
You know, he looked like he could be working at a sawmill. He looked like he just had a unique look. He looked like he could be shopping at Dollar General in pajamas.
He looked like he was the guy who went out in the woods with an axe, one-handed, and just was chopping down trees with one slice. He's a mammoth. He's a Paul Bunyan of a man, if you will.
He had some very spaced out eyes.
At the end.
But even as like a youth, he had those wild
Well, he did. He had the
eyes.
Wild southern eyes. And, but he started off young, found a gimmick with the tag team, knew how to sell it.
Well, he was with Michael Hayes, who is at that point
top of his game.
Top of his game for a Southern the first match that I went to was Michael Hayes against Junkyard Dog in the cage.
Oh, really? Okay.
At the Civic Center, I was like 4. This was like 81, 82. Michael Hayes was as cool as you could get at that time for at least Southern-based stuff. He
they all were.
He was an outlaw.
Yeah.
And they had just this real killer gimmick.
Yeah.
And Terry Gordy was very believable in a very violent big man way.
We're tough Southerners. Don't mess with us.
Yep.
You know, we're the baddest of the bad, and everyone in that stadium believed it.
Yeah.
And they wanted to be them.
Yep.
You know, that's who you had a poster above your bedroom and just dreamed that one day you would be a Freebird too.
Heath has that poster now.
I was going to say, I would not be surprised.
Yes.
They entered in with music.
Yep.
Which was unheard of back then.
Supposedly, they are one of the first, if not the first, to play entrance music.
Yeah, according to Jim Cornette, who said that.
And, you know, that's what a lot of guys have said.
And so it's smart way, a little bit ahead of their time, but knew how to make money with the Von Erichs.
Mm-hmm.
And for 2.5 years, had one of the greatest feuds, because they knew that the Von Erichs were big, and they needed to get in big in that area, give them a good villain.
Well, that world class at a time, I don't, they like to say it was hot for 2.5 years, but for a time, I wouldn't say it was that hot for that length, but for over a year, they were as hot as they could be.
I believe when you're traveling through their first tour, however long that took, I agree. I think they were the hottest thing, and people wanted to see that matchup again. So I could see maybe even 2 years, because a rematch coming back to my town, I remember the last one, and that was a throwdown.
But you got to think, they work. Texas is a giant state, but they didn't work all of it.
Oh yeah.
But they were huge, and that was one of those early kind of TVs that got syndicated around, and they were well on their way to bigger things when they wanted to go. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out that way.
And you had said they all had their own individual personalities too that worked.
Sure.
So it wasn't like, you had that tag team magic, and then when you break up the magic, the individual, they're just not there.
Right.
That magic worked better when Road Dogg and Billy Gunn. Magic together.
Yeah.
Apart, they just weren't main eventers, not sub-eventers. They weren't anything. But they just had that magic, that, pizzazz. And there's a lot of tag teamers who have that. They're great together. They're forgettable when they're apart.
Right.
And but this was one that they already had their own individual. They were rock stars for the whole run, and you could see them depart. It's like when the Rock and Sock connection, 2 stars already that are, could just be on their own and be successful.
Yeah, I think that the Gordy thing is really good, and it's interesting how, like, he really had a few different. You could break his career up in big sizes on what he was able to do with Michael Hayes being solo, and then with Doc, and then unfortunately what he was dealt at the end.
Well, big player in Japan, loved in Japan.
Yep.
Big star, raking in the dough in Japan, raking in money wherever he went. But to start so early in the business, to have so much experience at such a young age, that was the thing that really impressed me.
Yeah.
And of course, the night he overdoses on the plane.
Well, we're jumping way into this then. Yeah.
Oh, what else?
Well, I'm just going to say, I just think that his run with Doc as that tag team is very much, if they would have been in the States, I think you could have easily said that was going to be the top 90s team with the Steiners, because those guys were so
solid.
Yeah. Those were guys you could put in the match.
That's
with,
Road Warriors. They get an instant pop from the crowd.
You put them in against the Road Warriors, and people go, okay, I'll buy this. Yeah. They're not going to go, oh, they're going to kill them. They're going to be like,
you got my money.
Yeah, you got my money.
I want to see this. That's something I want to see.
And it's not like sometimes you put big guys in the ring together, and it's very terrible because there's no one to do the work.
Meat slapping against meat.
Right, kind of like Buff's movies. But those matches with Doc and Gordy against the Steiners, anybody you put them in the ring with was very... So I think that that's something that's... Unfortunately, that is a Japan thing, but they're sprinkled in with WCW.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then you get to the OD on the plane. They don't get to him in time, meaning they save him, but his brain...
is cooked
at this point. And when he comes to, he is a completely different person. And that is the second half of the story. And that is where it just really gets tragic.
Sad.
And 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 they show the pictures of him before and after. Him doing... I love the one where he does and shows him doing an interview as a Freebird. Then it shows him in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Yeah, I'm going to take the title, and I'm going to take it from you. And it's just like, he's reading from a cue card now.
And it's challenging at that.
There's nothing, like, he remembers how to do wrestling. He just doesn't remember what he did before this.
Right.
And one of the saddest stories was Jim Cornette's story again, where he said, they got Terry Gordy hoping he would snap out of this funk, not realizing that's permanent damage.
Yeah.
There is no snap. Everyone was hoping he'd snap out of it and get back into the groove.
You can train your body, but if your mind is gone.
And that's what he said. His body was going through the motions, but his mind just didn't know what it meant.
Right.
And he goes up. He said he would be silent and come up behind Jim Cornette and say, Jim? He said, yeah, Terry? Yeah. He very softly spoken. He said, I was going to do a power bomb. Is that all right? You want me to do a power bomb? Yeah, sure, Terry, if that's what you want to do. He went, okay, I'll do a power bomb. And that's when, and he said that's when you kind of knew that he wasn't coming back.
Yeah.
And that to me it's so sad. That is so sad that the man is reduced to, he just didn't.
Well, when they did there's a clip of when they do an RF video shoot interview where he's like sitting there and they're like talking to him, like, tell me this about your career. And he's like, oh yeah, he's a good guy. And I remember buying that
Oh,
when
you
we
did?
ordered
You saw
those,
this?
yeah, when we ordered tapes and stuff. And I
Yeah.
can remember buying that because I was like, oh, I'd love to hear Terry Gordy's story because I mean, that's
Yeah.
one of the guys that I grew up on. And I remember watching like 10 minutes in and going, ooh, this is really not good at
Yeah.
all. Like they basically went through all the questions and just cut it short because
He had nothing to say.
he had no
memory.
recall.
Yeah.
You know, you could say, tell me about work with Dusty Rhodes. And he'd be like, yeah, I worked with Dusty. He's a good guy. It's like, you can't tell me
Yeah, but I bet you had a lot of wild stories. Yeah, but I don't remember them.
Yeah.
Is what he said in one of the discussions. There.
Yeah, it's just.
And it
ooh.
was just, but he seems like he's he always looked like he was dazed and
Yes.
confused.
Yeah.
And just like, where am I? Like when you just wake up and you're just kind of like, whoa,
Disoriented.
where am I? You're kind of disoriented for a little bit. That was him for the rest of his life.
I feel bad for anybody in his personal circle that were having to kind of take care of that because you're basically taking care of
a child again.
a giant child.
A giant child. And the thing is, though, you have respect for him because you know what he was. But he's not that man anymore.
Right.
And you want to save face. And I do like how they talked about how the WWE treated him with respect by making him the executor so no one would be able to know who he was.
Which is kind of back to the John Tenta thing.
Exactly. But they were trying to save face because they knew he still had the look and he could still wrestle. But
they want to say, can we get something out of him?
We don't want to destroy his legacy, so let's put him in a mask.
And that's Michael Hayes covering his buddy's tail.
Yeah, helping his buddy out. And it's sad because at that age, again, another person died, 41.
Mm-hmm.
Another super young death.
Yeah, early.
So so he would have been prime, and he would have been huge in WWF back in the day.
Well, yeah, I mean, he definitely could have got something else out of him. It's kind of like Doc tearing his quad or tearing his hamstring in the Brawl for All. You know, those were two guys that were huge stars in Japan. Huge stars like 5 years before that, and then just poof.
But then he can't, they just kind of, he'd be wondering, and that was so sad. Who was it? Mick Foley would be saying that they'd be out in the middle of the night searching for him because he'd just wander off. And that's when Mick knew this wasn't going to last that long. Because he's
a liability.
He's too far gone. And that's just, it's so sad. It's so sad because, here's this guy that had this big, long legacy and, now you're kind of embarrassed. You want people to keep the legacy, and I get it. You don't want people to know this is what he became. This is his last few matches. Supposedly his last match in Japan against Mick Foley went really well.
Yeah, that was one of those death matches.
Yeah, but it seems like he was still going through the motions, just no one realized it.
Right. Mick kind of carried that.
Carried him through the match and made it look good. And, and then joked that was the greatest post-interview ever, where he's cussing afterwards just because he's just so hurt and beat up, and that's funny.
Yeah,
I thought that was great, but I think at that point, I even think at that point Mick Foley even thought, well, maybe he'll get back into it, because there's so much hope for this person. But that, to me, the whole episode, that's all he knew. 14.
Right, yeah,
There's no one ever in this world that will break in.
What skill does he have other than that?
He knew nothing.
Nothing.
He could do
Absolutely
nothing else.
Nothing.
Even with his full brain.
You got to wonder if, they said Snuka couldn't read or write. You got to wonder how well Terry Gordy could read or write to be in the wrestling business at 14.
Well, yeah, and to think even if he didn't damage his brain, he would have been on the street now unless WWF gave him a coaching job.
He would have been. Yeah, he's living in a apartment building with 100 other people.
Yeah, he's got no other knowledge. He knows nothing else.
And unlimited, not just a limited skill set now, but just limited communication skill.
Limited communication skills. Skill set is very limited, but I thought it was an excellent episode. Did you have any additional thoughts on this one?
No, I thought it was just it was more of getting into, okay, this is the dark side of the ring. It's a sad story about pro wrestlers that live that life. But I think that you say that about wrestling. It's a lot of entertainers. and even guys our age that are, if it's working out or whatever, it's working pipeline, and they get 40 and your body starts slowing down.
Starts breaking down. You can't do those things anymore.
Yeah, and you got addiction problems and you got bills, and
but you're used to the big money coming in.
Yeah.
So you're not used to budgeting. You didn't save it because you thought that money would be forever. You hear like so many wrestlers in these dark side of the rings say we thought it was going to just go. We didn't think about the future. We just said, hey, we're making tons of money right now.
Well, they don't understand how physically demanding what they're doing until like 5 years later, and you go, oh, I can't do what I used to.
When you think, oh, I can keep this up forever. That's what you feel like. Because when you're that young, you think, well, I'll never get that
That's
old.
why smart guys that lasted a long time did a certain amount of things. They didn't do a lot of stuff because they knew they had to make it last.
Well, Mick Foley, to his credit, canceled his final match. He was going to do a farewell match. He questioned about doing one, but then announced to his fans a few weeks ago or something.
Yeah, that
you don't think he was ever
he
gonna
said
do it?
that was way far fetched. I mean, for concussion protocol and stuff, he's
well beyond.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would have sanctioned him.
So you think in reality he knew there was no chance?
Well, I don't think anybody was going to legally. No one was going to sanction that.
Okay. He pulled it off like it was his family that told him.
Well, and maybe they did, but what's it worth to say I want to have another match that's not for a big company in front of 2,500 people?
And you know what I think spurred that? And I don't remember when he announced this, but I think that whole thing about the whole Sting final match.
Yeah.
You kind of feel like, well, I didn't get my farewell match. I got one more left in me. Let's do this. Flair was twice my age when he did his last match.
Yeah, I don't think that there was much of a chance of that. Mick is a big man, and he battles weight issues, and even if he lost 100 pounds and he gets to 230 or 250 or whatever it is, like, still a lot on a frame that is that beat up.
Mm-hmm.
And why? I mean, your legacy lives on. All you got to go is any streaming service, and you can see incredible things with Mick Foley. And I, for one, say a lot of his magic was behind the mic, not just beating himself up.
Yeah, it was good too. Yeah, he had it on both ends for me. His stunts were impressive. His hardcore matches, he took a lot of punishment. His body went through a lot of punishment.
Yeah, but he was incredible on the stick.
And he was. He was funny.
Yeah.
He could stay in character. He had lots of, his multiple personas.
He's one of those guys that you can look at that could have been a dark side of the ring like all these other guys, and luckily he
didn't turn out that way.
He was smart enough and fortunate enough to do a lot of damaging things, but he didn't do drugs. He didn't party.
Stayed away from it. Straight edge, baby.
Yeah. So,
as the kids say.
Anyway.
All right. So anyway, good episode. The next one, and I didn't get the title because I obviously didn't know the full story of Saving Face, the Brutus Beefcake story.
Mm-hmm.
Brutus the Barber Beefcake, I recognize him back in the 80s. Big scissors, cutting the hair of his opponents. You watched him back in the day, I'm assuming. What were your thoughts of him as a kid?
I remember Brutus on the very first WrestleMania, and that was when he was doing kind of like the Chippendale gimmick with the bow tie around his neck and the long gloves, and that's when he was paired up with Valentine then as the Dream Team.
Right.
And I thought he was okay. I mean, he didn't. Yeah. I felt
wow you.
Yeah, there was not. He was a bigger guy.
He's in the stable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big, tan, but, when he got that barber gimmick, that definitely
elevated his status.
It took him to upper mid-card by far.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you watch that and you see all those foam scissors in the air and stuff, like the marketing of the WWF is just,
weird.
Man.
What were they thinking?
Yeah, but kids bought all that. They were like, I want that. And somebody's parents were like, okay, we'll buy it.
Yeah.
Where did that go when they got home? In the trash.
Well, as The Rock says, they shine it up real nice.
Or that. So that was my takeaway was the scissors. But I thought Beefcake was what he was.
Mid-card level. Memorable mid-card.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was not going to wow you. I mean, his finisher was a sleeper, so I mean, pretty safe. And I thought that it was odd that if you look at his career, he's the one that beat Henning for Henning's first loss, and that's just kind of weird to think that Mr. Perfect lost to Beefcake.
Do you think that's a Hulk Hogan thing?
I would think so, brother.
Yeah, being the best friend of Hulk Hogan has its perks.
Yeah, because it's why not put him undefeated against Hogan? There's the money. Because people said, well, they put Henning against Hogan and didn't draw. Well, he wasn't undefeated. If you'd have kept him undefeated and said, hey, I'm going to take the belt, no one can beat me, I haven't ever lost here, you got some intrigue. But if you went to sleep with the barber,
then your cred is kind of
okay. Yeah,
point.
you're just another guy Hogan's going to beat now.
Yeah, you're just the next number.
Yeah,
as you move his little super powerful leg drop,
or the thermos.
Or the thermos. There you go.
Or the Thormus, possibly.
Thorimus. So I did not know the story of his accident.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Quite the story.
Even as they're telling it and they're reenacting it, even though they don't show anything, I felt icky.
Did it make you think of Faces of Death?
It did.
Holding my jaw.
Holding his face falling apart. Having to reconstruct and reset the eyes. Because the skull, someone punched him and punched in his skull.
I love the fact that all these people were on speed dial, brother. Like Hogan had such pull in Tampa. Like they got plastic surgeons that
night started working.
I mean, come on.
24/7. Back in the day when hospitals weren't 24/7.
No.
But yeah, they got right to work on a Sunday, on the 4th of July.
Very impressive. Like everything that happened, the fact that they got doctors out there and pulled all this off is pretty incredible.
And the doctor saying, well, you had to start at the top. We'll start and build from the top. Build from the outer and go to the inner. Since he had the outer linings of his skull still intact, I'm like, I can't. This is hard to listen to.
Right.
And they weren't showing anything, but still I was like, ugh.
You didn't need to show anything.
You didn't. It was grotesque in nature.
That doctor was so good at telling a story. He's kind of like you on your podcast when you're a one-man podcast.
Well, thank you. But I also like when Hogan's carrying him down the hallway and his eyeball pops out. He was like, we need a doctor back in here. What is going on?
That almost sounds like a Hogan story.
Okay, you think that's a fake?
It's hard to believe anything.
Probably so.
Anything involved with Hogan.
Beefcake says it happened too, but again, they were friends back then.
Right.
So many stories there. Crazy though. Crazy, the whole face thing. And that I can't remember the girl that went in to go see him and screamed and everything. Fake or real? You think that's a fake one too?
Yeah,
okay.
It sounds a little...
Okay, far-fetched. Okay. No, I agree.
What can we say to this story? Hey, let's say a fan went in there.
Well, it was a lady wrestler. I can't remember who.
Or whatever, and then, maybe.
Maybe more of a fun story.
Was it Missy? Did Missy say she was the one?
I want to say, but I couldn't remember now. Whoever it was.
Missy's good with a lot of things with her mouth, supposedly. I don't know if screaming's one of them.
Hello. What do you think of Missy today? Plastic surgery holding up?
Missy is... It's tough. Because Missy in... like 93 when she was with the Nasty Boys. Mm-hmm. Man.
That's something, huh?
That was something.
There you go.
Yes. Yeah.
Now
I would like to rub my face in her armpit the way they used to rub the opponent's face into the Nasty Boys armpit.
I was going to say, I thought you were going to make a joke because the motorboat accident is what had his face caved in. And
no.
You were going to make a face joke with a motorboat.
No, I was nothing that crass.
Okay. Thank you. You would never be that crass.
Never.
No. Okay, got it. All right, so Jim Cornette, did you see his reaction to this?
Yes.
I watched it too. You have I should take a break here. You have turned me on to his podcast. Mm-hmm. And I just love hearing the man talk. Like you said, I could hear him read, the encyclopedia, and I'd still be listening.
Yes.
He gave that episode an F grade because it didn't tell him anything he didn't already know.
Right.
Now, I didn't know about the facial injury, and I didn't know about the split from Hogan's best friend stuff. But he was upset because no one ever said why people don't like Missy.
Beefcake.
His wife.
Oh, yeah.
And there's something there, but they won't say what it is. What she said, what she did. Do you know anything extra?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No.
But it's his wife is the reason. Like she said something. Hogan had some kind of tour with all his pals again.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what normally breaks up buddies is girls. Unless, well, like we said, what girls break up buddies,
true.
you know.
That's true.
If it's via text or whatever, that's what happens to friendships.
That's true.
A girl gets in the middle of that and it short circuits.
I forgot a very important part of the story. When Beefcake reinvented himself, I had no idea he was Disciple.
That was a good look. When he first showed up as Disciple, I didn't realize who that was either.
I didn't. Well, this is back when I was watching wrestling. And when he said, I grew my beard, I got trim, I got in shape. It's a whole transformation.
Oh, yeah.
From Brutus the Beefcake to Disciple. Those look like different people.
Yeah.
They don't even look like brothers.
Yeah.
And it was a good look.
Yeah.
And the only thing, sad to say, of course, Disciple got treated as one of the regular staple NWO forgettable people.
Yeah.
So what did they do when they broke him away? He became part of the One Warrior Nation. And the Disciple, just because Ultimate Warrior wasn't going to come out there, the Disciple was the one to cut all the promos. And what a big, but no one ever fought the Disciple. I thought, well, why not pit the Disciple up against an NWO showcase that and fight it. But no, that led up to
because Beefcake couldn't do anything in the ring.
Yeah, even though he looked great.
He looked great.
He had the look.
Yeah, he could have been the muscle outside there, but it's kind of hard to be the muscle of the NWO when
they've already got muscle.
My God, you got Kevin Nash there.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
You know.
So, but I had no idea. So that was an amazing transformation.
Yep.
And I'll be honest, Beefcake seems like a nice guy today. You know, he's the hunchback of Notre Dame, but he's all right. He's all right. I mean, he's beat up a little bit. I think he'd laugh at that. He seemed like a cheerful, go with the flow. I'm thankful for the life I've had. Hey, my whole face caved in, and look at me. I'm still here.
Yeah.
You can't help but be thankful. There's only one path when you've had the life of Brutus Beefcake.
Yeah.
It's to just be thankful about every single moment you had.
Right.
And he seems happily married. Is it Dark Side of the Ring material? Yes, it definitely is. Because still, like I said, they don't show anything, but just describing holding his face, popping out of the water, I just, his face is a death stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, and I can see, because what had happened, if anyone, we're spoiling everything here, but they were pulling people on a parasailing trip, and he was straightening out the line, but they went go before he could get out of the way. She's coming at him. She tried to lift her legs, and it's a knee. I know! It's disgusting, but you can see it. And she lifted her knee, and it went straight into, the bridge of his forehead, in between his nose, in between his eyes. And, I mean, you're talking bone on bone at however fast they gunned it. 45, 50 miles per hour.
That's what I was going to say. I want to say that they said it was, but to me, the girl that hit him, I don't know what it did to her knee, but
it must have exploded her kneecap.
That's what, where's that story?
I bet she got a knee replacement for sure. There's no way it didn't shatter her knee.
I mean, you would almost think it would do more than just because the impact would just pull your hip out of place and everything.
That's true. We never got to hear about her anymore, but I'm sure she went to the hospital too. But she didn't have Hogan's support, so she had to wait till the next day.
You got to wonder, somebody got paid pretty well in that, because you got major people out there with a lot of paraphernalia.
Yeah, that's a good question. They never mentioned what happened to her, but it must have hurt her too. Not as bad as your face getting caved in.
No, but I'm sure she's never walked the same after that.
No, I'm sure she hasn't. I'm sure she has a metal joint in there, and it's the old legs hurting that old bird wherever she's at now, if she's still around on this face of the earth. But yeah, final thoughts on Brutus the Beefcake story?
It just makes me dislike Hogan even more.
Oh, still added to the Hogan. It was sad that he wants to make up and be friends with his old pal Hogan, and Hogan still to this day wants nothing to do with him. Like introduced him, but then that was the last, and didn't really talk to him. Just agreed to introduce him and then walked off.
Yeah.
And Bruce seems so thankful and wanting to forgive and let bygones be bygones, and Hogan still Hogan deep down inside. He doesn't care about. He has no regrets about being a jerk.
He just has one regret about using strong language, I guess.
Maybe so, but 'tis what it is.
Yeah.
So there you go, folks. 2 more excellent episodes of Dark Side of the Ring. Hey, if you're watching this, let us know what you thought in the comments below.
And if you know what happened to the girl that drilled beefcake, what happened to her?
What happened to her? Let us know, and we'll see you next time on Princes of the Universe.